Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, and I am streaming live from my office at Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy. Super excited to be with you today. And I just want to talk about some random things, really, and then some things that are in the news. So, what do I mean? I want to title this podcast Random Rumblings from Shawn, and I thought about what I was going to talk about, and it's about consistency in everything. So we talk about diet and exercise a lot. We talk about sleep, and one of the four pillars of sleep is consistency. How often do you get good sleep? But diet, exercise is no different. So there's not some secret, there's not some magic about it. There's not one workout that you can do that's going to be better than most others, honestly. It's just about being consistent. There's not some superfood you can eat that's going to, magically, give you a great toned body. It's about consistency in diet and exercise and sleep. Those are the three things that we can do to actually make us healthy. So, but what else does that apply to? It's really consistency and long-term in everything. When we're losing weight, my weight can fluctuate literally 6 or 7 pounds a day. Easy. How do I do that? Well, I do intermittent fasting, so I mostly eat just dinner. So I eat once every 24 hours or so, depending on my workout schedule. So obviously, right before I eat, I'm going to be a lot lighter than right after I eat. And especially when you throw exercise in there. So I don't eat normally. I don't fuel for my workouts unless they're going to be longer than an hour and a half and more intense. And it depends on what my workout day was the day before too. And sometimes if they're not intense, you don't really even have to fuel for the longer workouts because you don't need a lot of fuel at low intensity because you'll be burning fat. So, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Good way to train your body to adapt to burning fat also. Now, for all you keto people out there, there's no such thing as an on-off switch of when you burn fat, when you burn glucose, when you burn glycogen. All those things are happening at all the time in your body. So, but about consistency also in life. It's not just diet, exercise, and sleep that makes you healthy and successful and prosperous. It's about showing up and working consistently over many years. Don't think that you're going to get a job and you're going to be at the top of that ladder, within a few weeks or even a few months or even a few years. I kind of find it frustrating in today's world because I think there's a generation out there, my kids' generation, that, they're in their 20s. And I think sometimes people in that generation, I think they call it the millennial generation. I think they think that they want everything their parents had, but yet their parents worked 30 years to get it. So most important thing is to be consistent and show up and work just like you would in a diet, just like you would in exercise, just like we did in life. It's life is, and most things are a marathon. They're not a sprint. And even if you are sprinting for something, a sprinter realizes that his training or her training that part is a journey and that part is a marathon. They don't just sprint. They have to be healthy and to be competitive. They have to do a lot of other exercises that take weeks, months, and years to perfect. So if you've been following the news at all lately, you probably maybe have heard of the Liver King. I'm going to show you a picture of him. I find it actually interesting that anybody believed that he was not using a bunch of anabolics. I don't even know the names of all of them, honestly. I don't keep track of a lot of the stuff that people like him abuse because I don't think it's healthy. The interesting story is that my two boys and I, we were discussing this over Thanksgiving, like a few days before it came out that he was lying, basically, because he would adamantly say that, no, all I do is eat raw liver and organ meats and exercise, and it's all about being primal. And of course, I mean, look at the guy. Honestly, just look at him. There's no way. There's no way that you can get that way without using anabolics. And I'm just going to say this. He's not healthy. I don't care what he says. I don't care. He is not healthy. Athletes, mostly bodybuilders, that look like this and abuse anabolics, they are not healthy at all. They die young many times from heart attacks. And it's not from testosterone that they use necessarily. It's from all the other stuff that they use. This guy's drug bill was $11,000 to $12,000 a month, all to look like that. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Good for you, buddy. But also what I want to say is that doesn't mean that everything he's talking about was discredited. He did talk about being a carnivore and eating organ meats, and I still think that's a very healthy thing to do. I'm not a fan of organ meats, honestly. I'm a big carnivore person, and I eat a lot of meat, but I'm not a big fan of organ meats because I just can't stomach them. I'm not saying they're not healthy, but they're just not for me. But there's a lot of talk now about eating animals nose to tail. And if you think about what we used to do ancestrally speaking, centuries ago, like when the Native Americans would hunt bison, I mean, they would eat anything that was edible on the bison, and they would use every part of it. So there's probably some benefit to eating organ meats and eating nose to tail. I'm not there. I know one time Janet and I ordered a meat and cheese plate one time, and it was dark. It was in a live concert venue, jazz concert in Bend, Oregon, and it was dark in there. And so they had crackers on there, and I was eating some stuff that had crackers on it. I'm like, I was putting some stuff on the crackers, and it was just like, I thought it was like jelly, like dark jelly, but it was pate, which is liver, which the texture I can't handle. Anyway, that was a surprise, and I didn't like it, and probably won't do that again. Also, one time, bone marrow. They had bone marrow on one of these meat and cheese plates, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to try to be healthy and eat bone marrow. I wasn't a fan of bone marrow either. I'm not saying it's not healthy. I think eating a good, well-rounded diet, and mostly carnivore, I think we can get a lot more nutrients in meat because they're so nutrient dense as far as macros, as far as proteins, but as far as other nutrients too that you cannot absolutely get in vegetables, like B12, for instance, or heme iron. You can always usually spot a vegan or a vegetarian because they look anemic. They don't have enough iron. I mean, think about what makes red meat red. It's the blood in it. That's heme iron. And that's what is the best absorbed iron around, period. There is no supplement you can take. There is no plant you can eat that has a better iron source than red meat. I mean, just look at it. It's red, and it's red because it has iron in it. So if anybody has any comments, it looks like somebody does have some comments. I'll answer this here. Okay. Hey, Wayne, thanks for watching. Get him. You're welcome, Wayne. If anybody has any questions or comments, please put them in here. If they have any questions about Liver King, or thoughts on, he did apologize. Thoughts on what you think about his apology, if you know the story at all, or if you think, there's even talk about that he might be involved in some lawsuits, and I don't know why he would get sued if people were believing that he was natural. That's honestly their problem. I mean, my kids are in their 20s, and they laughed when we talked about it. I'm like, oh, so is Liver King natural? When we were talking about it at Thanksgiving, they're like, yeah, right. So, and I know he's got a business partner too, and they would sell, gosh, what's his name? Carnivore MD, and they would sell liver supplements. And the business partner, who's a doctor, he said that he didn't know that he was, not that he was abusing all these anabolics. I don't know how you would not know that. Still, like I say, it doesn't. It's still, some of the things they talk about are still valid. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate them getting the word about that out. But also, I'm kind of glad that it came out about Liver King not being natural, because one of the unfortunate things that happens in today's society, whether it be men or whether it be women, we see all these men like bodybuilders. And if you look like in the 80s, when I grew up in high school, I mean, what constituted a big fit man then is so different than now. Because unfortunately, young kids will see these bodybuilders and they'll say, well, I want to look like that. Well, the only way you can look like that is by taking the horrible concoctions of drugs, they call it gear, that they take. And it's absolutely not healthy. When you look at a lot of bodybuilders, they die in their 40s from many times heart attacks. It's just not healthy. I mean, and that's another thing. It's like, I've talked about it before, and you can look at a person and see if they're healthy. And I mean, just look at a bodybuilder. I mean, look at Liver King. Does anybody think he really looks healthy? No, he doesn't look healthy at all. One of the things to point out is that one of the ways that you can tell if somebody's juicing is it's hard to explain sometimes if you don't know what you're looking for, but is their abdominal muscles. When their abdominal muscles, when their whole belly kind of protrudes out, you look at most competitive bodybuilders, they will have abs, but their whole abdominal muscles, they protrude out. They have like a gut. And I've done a lot of research on what causes that. Some people thought it was at first that it was growth hormone causing your intestines to grow, but I don't think that's it. So if anybody has any idea of what really causes that, please chime in, comment, let me know. So I really don't have anything else today. I appreciate you guys listening to me, and I appreciate you guys tuning into our podcast. Our podcast is ever growing. It's amazing how many people I see or hear, and they say, hey, I listen to your podcast every day, and I really appreciate it. We stream live on Facebook. We stream live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter now. Also, check me out on TikTok. My TikTok is ever growing, and that's a great way to get out little short messages. All these podcasts, we take two little segments out of each podcast, and we put it into a short 1 to 2 minute video, and that way we can share them across all social media. So if there's any subject you would like to hear about, know more about, please let me know. Put it in the comments. Follow us on Facebook, the Mosaic Professional Pharmacy Facebook site, or the Mosaic Professional Pharmacy YouTube site. And let us know what you'd like to hear, because we want to, this podcast's goal is to educate and empower individuals to take charge of their own health. And there's many different ways to do that. So please let us know what you'd like to see, what you'd like to hear, and I appreciate it. And let's see what we have going on I know what we have going on. You don't want to miss out on this one. So our midweek scheduled podcast is usually Thursday, 8 to 9 a.m. This week, you do not want to miss out. It is going to be Dr. Peter McCullough. If you know or have heard of Dr. Peter McCullough, he is a cardiologist, internal medicine doctor, and he has been censored on every social media platform because of his views on COVID. And he is going to be on our podcast Friday. And I'm super excited. So Friday, I think, let me look. It should be posted already, but let me look. I think it's 10 a.m. actually. So, but it is Friday. Oh, it's 11. Friday, 11 11 to 12, we will have Dr. Peter McCullough on. Super excited to have him on. We will not be streaming live on YouTube because he's going to say some things that might get censored on YouTube. So you'll have to catch us on other platforms. But he's going to be talking about his book, his most recent book, The Courage to Face COVID-19. And thank goodness for doctors like him that have come out, spoke out against the narrative, and they've gotten shot at because of it. He lost his credentials in internal medicine and cardiology. He still has his license, but he's had hits against his license that he has to fight. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in. Anybody that doesn't believe in the narrative and they have a different thinking, then there's hits on their license, and that's really, really too bad. So thank goodness that doctors like him are standing up. So you don't want to miss out. 11 to noon on Friday, Dr. Peter McCullough. He was actually on Joe Rogan. You can look him up on Joe Rogan. He was censored on every platform, every social media platform. And then he got interviewed by Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan is on Spotify now. And there were 50 million views on that Joe Rogan episode. So you don't want to miss out. I'm super excited to have Dr. McCullough on our show. I've met him before, super nice guy, and very knowledgeable guy. So I'm super excited to have him on. So with that, I don't have anything else. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. You've been listening to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. We will see you Friday.